I want to start off by saying that I thank and I appreciate everybody who comes to my channel to hear what I got to say, to hear my 2 cents on topics that I feel is important, particularly to foundational Black Americans. It's a few things that we're going to discuss right now, and I'm going to share my screen with you all so you can see what I see. There are a few things we're going to discuss, and it's all going to tie in together. One of the things that upsets me the most is the fact that in this whole political landscape, the presidential, it started off as 25 presidential candidates. I'm sure it's less than that now because they probably didn't raise enough money to continue the campaign. It started off as 25, it's less now. And all those candidates from Bernie Sanders all the way down to the people who names I don't even know, they were opposed to reparations for foundational Black Americans. And one thing I want to get clear is that what people in the media and politicians what they tend to do is strictly base reparations around slavery. Reparations, what we're talking about, and they know this, they know reparations isn't strictly for slavery. It's about the 100+ years of terrorism Black people, foundational Black Americans have been going through in this nation, from slavery to redlining to the inability to get loans, from mass incarceration, from the government admitting that they injected drugs into the Black community in order to destroy it, from medical genocide, just mass incarceration, the war on drugs was actually the war on poor Black people. This is what reparations entails, not just slavery. So when they sit up here and they want to have a conversation and they want to say that slavery was too long ago, who are we supposed to pay? The people who are responsible for slavery and the slaveholders are not alive today, and the people who were slaves are not alive today. But what they feel and what they purposely don't mention is that the terrorism that Black people are facing today still continues. When you have Black people who can legally get shot down in the middle of the street and nothing happens to those who kill them, then that's terrorism. And they know that. And they know that when we bring this case of reparations to them, that we're not talking specifically and only about slavery. Now, I understand, and it's unfortunate that when any Democratic presidential candidate goes before the American people and tell them that they support reparations for Black people, that they almost automatically lost the vote. They almost automatically lost the election. And that's very sad and that's very unfortunate because these same presidential candidates can go in front of the American people and tell masses and millions of the American people that illegal aliens, undocumented people should be able to get in this country without checks, without checking the medical history, without checking the background, just get free rides, get a free pass, get free driver's license, get free health care, free college. That's not right. For hundreds of years, for almost 500 years, Black people have been in this nation and we've been struggling and we've been doing everything right, been doing everything that's been asked of us in order to fit in white supremacist society, in order to make us more palatable for you to live amongst. And only thing we got was hatred and disgust and continued terrorism against our people in this nation. These candidates can go in front of millions of people and tell you that they run strictly on a platform to get people who shouldn't be here to stay in here and to give homosexual and LGBTQ community people a third bathroom and equal rights. But when Black people say, what laws are you going to do specifically to benefit us and to get us out of this generational poverty that we've been inflicted with since our release from slavery, nobody has a conclusion. Nobody has an answer specifically for Black people. But what they want to tell you is that for people of color, we can do this. For people of color, we'll do that. When we help the entire society, then that automatically lifts the Black people out of poverty when that's a lie. That's been a lie since the very first time for over 30 years when they've been telling that stupid story that helping everybody automatically helps Black people. They don't go in front of the Hispanic and Mexican communities saying we don't. It will be unbeneficial and unlikely for us to pass any sort of immigration bill in this nation at this time. They don't go in front of the LGBT community and say, hey, we can't do anything specifically for you with equality and all these other acts and do more acts than the ones that's already in the books. We can't do that. They don't go in front of the Jews and tell the Jews we can't continue to fund Israel because then that's taking tax dollars out of the American people pocket who doesn't benefit from those tens of billions of dollars every year we send you. But they come in front of the black people, the Democrats will come in front of the black people and tell us what they can't do for us. After over 50 years, we've been the reason that they've been getting office and maintaining office. And that's not right. And black people, we need to stop. If they don't come with us with tangible benefits and laws to protect us from this terrorism, from these police officers, and even the regular citizen, white citizens of this country who are terrorizing us and killing our men, women, and children, then they don't deserve a vote. They don't deserve a vote, and there would never be a Democratic president elected in this country again. Don't come to us telling us they want us to help the immigrants. They running on a platform to help illegal immigration, make it easier for people to come in this country to experience the American dream, while the people who built the American dream are still experiencing the American nightmare. And they tell us that, and they want us to support them, support other people. They want us to disregard our needs and our votes to help someone else. 50% of the Hispanic population voted for Donald Trump. And so now you got the other 50% sitting up here saying, "Oh, why Donald Trump is deporting people? He's deporting my family. He's deporting my auntie," when they are the very ones who voted for him to do that. Black people are the only people in this nation for when we ask for something, they tell us, they look at us and say, "Why are you even asking for something? Just vote for us." Because we vote out of emotion. We vote out of personality on if we like the candidate or not. We have not yet in this nation, since we began to vote for things, vote for laws, vote for tangible. We had the Civil Rights Act, but that wasn't beneficial to black people at all. It's not beneficial for black people to be able to sit in the same restaurant with white people. It's not beneficial for black people to be able to sit in the same school and learn the same lessons as white people. It's not beneficial for black people to be able to sit anywhere they want to on the bus. That has no generational benefit whatsoever. What we should have been asking for is for reparations, so we can do and maintain ourselves in our own generation. Give us what you owe us. That's what we want. And any Democratic candidate that doesn't understand that, and they want to make it seem like the reparation discussion is strictly about slavery, they're lying. They're lying. And they won't receive the vote, they won't be a candidate, they won't be the nominee, and they will never hold public office again. We will hold our vote. We will use our vote as a leverage of power. We won't go out there and feel like we're obligated to get a button on our shirt and say we voted, not knowing the politics and the standards of these candidates. No longer will we do that, because now we have a plan. We have an organization. We have an agenda. Our agenda is to get tangibles for what is owed to us from the destruction of our community, the destruction of our families, and the just snatching and ripping away of generations of black people to come. And we want protection from these mass executions of black people on the street by the very people who are supposed to protect us. We want justice. We demand justice. We demand reparations, and we want it now. Now, it's also kind of funny what I was looking up. You have a few presidential candidates whose ancestors were slave owners, and these candidates are against reparations. Now, I'm not saying that's, you can draw a comparison or conclusion because of that, but I just find it strange that a descendant of a slave owner is against reparation, against the people who were enslaved by their ancestors. You see what I'm saying? And so when you have people who are descendants of slave ancestors refuse to give reparations to the very people who are affected by it, yet they go out in public and continuously say, Black people are affected by high mortality rates. Black people are affected by mass incarceration rates. Black people have been negatively impacted by the war on drugs. Black people are negatively affected by higher rates of student loans, higher rates of housing higher housing loans. Black people are affected by poor education because of the environment that these schools are in. Black people are suffering from this. Black people have the lowest home ownership in the nation. They continuously sit up here and tell us issues that we already know the problem, but when we tell them what the solution to the issue is to give us financial compensation so we can do and maintain and take care of ourselves. They say, no, we can't cut checks for you. That's not fair. The rest of the American population will be unhappy with that. The rest of the American population will be upset. They'll get angry. They'll revolt if we do something specifically like that for you. We can't cut black people checks, but what we can do, we can make sure that you have health care, lower health care insurance. We can help HBCUs, historically black colleges, make sure their doors don't close. What else we could do? We can make sure that we guarantee pre-K learning for your children. All of that has no benefit whatsoever to black people at all. That has nothing to do with us. The majority of black people in this nation who seek higher education do not go to an HBCU, and the majority of the people in the HBCUs are not black. They're immigrants or they're foreigners outright. So you helping an HBCU keep its doors open has no benefit for the general masses of black people in this country. You sitting up here talking about health care, that's because of the black woman infant mortality rate, how you gonna make health care more affordable and accessible to the black people. Black people know how to go to the doctor. Black people know how to get medical insurance. But what we fail to have is the financial funds to get the medical insurance that we need. Don't tell us you're gonna make it more accessible without giving us the funds to be able to do it. Don't sit up here and tell us that you're gonna make housing loans more affordable and helpful to us by giving classes to racist people on how to be less racist when they give out them high interest rates on them loans. We don't want that. You give us the money. We don't even want just strictly land, because we need funds and money to cultivate that land and to build upon to create generational wealth. Give us the money. We can buy the land and we can build on that land. But don't come here with this all rising tides lift all boats. We don't want that. We need stuff specifically for black people because every other group in this nation has laws and bills passed specifically for them. Mexican Hispanics have bills specifically for them. It's called immigration and the benefits that come from being an immigrant in America. The LGBTQ community has laws and bills passed specifically meant for them and for their protection. White people automatically off top, every other law besides that is geared towards their betterment and their improvement. Black people are the only ones that don't have anything and they want to say affirmative action, but affirmative action benefits white women and minority and immigrants more than they ever have black people in this nation, who the foundational black people, the descendants of slaves in this nation. They've been it benefits immigrants and white women more. What's that called? I forgot. Affirmative action. It seems like when black people, every time black people fight to move ahead in the society, they move the goalposts, or they just switch out black people for the benefits and put other people, and then they put Mexicans into the thing black people fought for, and say, you fought for everybody. This is a person of color. When they create laws and say, this is gonna benefit people of color, that doesn't mean black people. We need laws specifically that state foundational black Americans, those who are descended from slavery, this is a set aside, this is a benefit specifically for you. This is not for people of color, which means Asians, Arabs, Hispanics, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Haitians, everybody else but black people tend to get the best of those benefits besides us. And one thing I'm going to show you, the first thing I'm going to show you is this whole myth of a black-brown coalition, that because black people and Hispanic people are considered people of color, that there should be some camaraderie. some coalition, some partnership that we should work together. But that only happens when the benefit is going to be mostly on the other people's side, never on the black people's side. Whenever something happens to the Hispanics, like with these raids from Donald Trump, they sit up here and they want to express to black people how they need our numbers, how they need our help, how they need our voices to speak up against this injustice that's happening to their people. But when injustices are happening to our people, they're nowhere to be around. When we sit up here and we tell the government and those other people of color in that government what we want in order to get out of this generational poverty, they tell us that they can't do it. So the first thing I want to show you is the myth of this Black-Brown coalition. Many of you may know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's this big progressive Democrat from New York who's making a lot of waves because she's very outspoken and everything. And it's an article and going around how the black people in the Congressional Black Caucus are upset that her movement of Hispanics are specifically targeting black people to remove them from office. I'm going to share my screen with you. We're going to go over this really fast because I have a lot of other points that I really need to get into with you all. I had it. Okay, so here we go. We'll get it a moment to get itself together. Okay. All right, I'm going to share my screen. All right, so it's a video. Basically, I'm gonna read the first paragraph. It says, Congressional Black Caucus member are furious at Justice Democrats accusing an outside progressive group aligned with the firebrand Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of trying to oust lawmakers of color, specifically African American lawmakers. Now, when they say a progressive group, they mean Hispanic group. Hispanics are taking a lot of seats in the House of Representatives, and then they're moving towards the Senate as well. And so in order to gain more and more influence and more power over the nation, they're trying to, instead of unseat these racist white people or these white people who've been in there for over 30 years who have outdated ideas, they're going after the black people because they see them as an easier target to remove from office so they can get their own Hispanic agendas and replace ours. So, as I said before, there is no Black-Brown coalition.
Congressional Black Caucus members are furious at Justice Democrats accusing the outside progressive group aligned with firebrand Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of trying to oust lawmakers of color, specifically African American lawmakers.
I'm sorry about that. We just have to start it over.
Join Planet Fitness for $1 down.
But like I was saying, they continuously sit up here and tell us there's a black and brown coalition only when it's a one-sided argument, when it's only one side of the people who are getting the benefits. It's never a mutual.
Congressional Black Caucus members are furious at Justice Democrats accusing the outside progressive group aligned with firebrand Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of trying to oust lawmakers of color, specifically African American lawmakers. Justice Democrats is backing primary challengers to 8-term Representative Henry Cuellar, a Hispanic caucus member, and 10-term Representative Lacy Clay, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. The insurgent group also made noise this year about challenging Democratic Caucus Chairman Hakeem Jeffries, a CBC member seen as the heir apparent to Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
All right. So when they sit up here and they want to discuss a black-brown coalition, even from the grassroots level, there has never been a mutual gain and benefit for black people when we sit up here and we side with these other groups. With every struggle that other races of people had in this nation. Black people have been there from the very beginning in support of them in the hopes as a team to say, hey, if you get this, if you get the leg up, then you pull me up and then I'll pull you up, like a ladder. That's how Black people who align ourselves with these other organizations have seen ourselves as a help. But what they seen us as is somebody to just simply stand on our shoulders until they reach that ledge, and then don't pull a ladder down so we can climb up too. You have Black women in the streets, from Sandra Bland to the grandmother in Texas, get killed by police officers. The grandmother shot 3 times, once in the face, because the officer said he felt threatened for his life. And you don't see any of these feminist organizations coming out saying and condemning what that officer did, demanding that he gets out of his service in law enforcement, demanding that he seeks to face justice and get fired, and demanding that he doesn't go back on the street and continue his patrols and duties as a police officer, because that's what he's doing right now. He's back on the streets doing his job as a police officer after shooting a grandmother in the face. These feminist groups are nowhere to be around when bad things or terrible, tragic things happen to Black women, yet they're filled to the brim with Black women. The Black women get no benefits from being a part of these feminist organizations. When it comes time to raise money, when it comes time to get donations or any of that, that doesn't benefit Black women at all, ever. It benefits white women. So when Black women are getting killed in the street unjustly, they don't speak up about it, because it's never been about I help you, you help me. It's always been you help me, and you just have the luxury of being in my presence or a part of this organization to feel some sort of sisterhood with white mama. That's it. And then another organization who we stood steadfast with when they was going through their trials and troubles was the LGBT community. We marched with them. We have given money to them. We have helped pass laws to protect them, because we wanted to equate their struggle to our struggle in the civil rights movement. It's totally different, but that's what we did. And so when gay Black men are winding up dead, and a campaign donator by the name of Ed Buck, 2 Black men found dead in his apartment, a homosexual, he gay, 2 Black men found dead in his apartment. I don't see the LGBT white communities coming out there and saying, hey, this guy's a danger to the LGBT people. He's killing gay men. They don't say anything. They don't say anything. When these Black transgenders are getting killed by white people, they don't say anything. None of these groups are there when we need them, but we're always there when they need us. There is no coalition. There's no color coalition, no Black-brown coalition. There's no LGBTQ coalition. There's no feminism coalition. And I want my brothers and sisters in the LGBT community to realize and to always remember that before you're gay, before you're whatever you are within that LGBTQ, IAQ, whatever, before you're it or any label, you're Black first. You're Black first. What you choose to do and who you choose to do it with in the bedroom should have no affiliation and no ties to your political aspiration for wanting the betterment of your people. But Black people, for some reason, we always want to latch on to other people instead of just being and befriending ourselves and working with our own people. I don't care if you're gay or you're a lesbian. I don't care if you're part of the feminist movement. As long as you are in those organizations to fuel and to perpetuate the betterment of Black society first as a whole. Not to sit up here and take on these white issues for white problems. They have a mechanism. They have an entire system to make sure that they don't go too far off the edge, while we are continuously always falling off the ledge. Now, back to what I was saying when I was talking about reparations and these presidential candidates who don't support reparations for basically a host of reasons, but mainly 2, because 1, they know that they will lose if they support reparations, and 2, they honestly don't believe Black people deserve reparation, financial compensation for the hundreds of years of terrorism that we've been faced with. There's only one Democratic candidate who agrees with financial cash payments, amongst other things, to Black people. Her estimate was low. She was saying that a few $100 billion to go around for all foundational Black Americans. But I like the idea. I like the fact that she was willing to discuss it and to openly state that she's up for financial compensation for Black people. Unfortunately, she has no way, absolutely no way at all, of winning the presidency of the United States. And even if she did win, she would have a hell of a hard time getting the Republicans, Senate, the Senate and the House of Republicans to even pass a reparations bill. Something like that would have to be done by executive order. So anyway, her name is Marianne Williamson. I'll show you guys a picture of her in case you're not familiar. Her name is Marianne Williams. Unfortunately, she seems like a very nice woman. I heard her at the debate. I like her politics. She seems more like the Ron Paul type, except she's a Democrat. Ron Paul is a Republican. About no wars, financial responsibility, just right or wrong that this nation has done by pulling our troops out of these countries, which is wasting billions of dollars. And I don't hear white people or Hispanics sitting up there talking about that. All your tax dollars going to build these bombs and to fund our troops all over the world to maintain this empire. They don't talk about that. But soon Black people want reparations, they want to sit up here and talk about my tax dollars shouldn't have to go through that. My tax dollars, I had nothing to do with slavery. My ancestors are immigrants. But they're benefiting from the foundation that we built on our backs and our blood, sweat, and tears and murder. So you are responsible because you're reaping the reward from it more than we are. So back to Marianne, she's a great candidate. You know, she has no chance of winning, but I really like her spirit. I really think that if America was mature enough and advanced enough in our way of thinking and in our morality and mentality, she'll be a perfect candidate. But American society, white society specifically, isn't that advanced because white society's whole reason is to maintain a system of white supremacy. And when you have a candidate talking about equality, that kind of, destroys the system of white supremacy, which is an entire system based on unearned benefits. So she automatically lost. I just want to show you guys her in case you didn't know. All right. So as I said before, another presidential candidate had just found out that he and his wife have ancestors who were slave owners. His name is Beto O'Rourke. He's on a Democratic ticket, and his wife, Eliza, just received information or publicly, released information that both of their parents, great-great-great-grandparents, at one point owned slaves. Beto O'Rourke, the man who's running for president of the United States, on his mother and his father's side, had grandfathers who were slave owners. Now, I want you to, we're going to go with this article. I'm going to go to the important pieces, but I want you to remember and read and hear what he's saying in this letter. It's like an open letter he written about the situation. And remember what I said earlier in the video about how they like to state the problems that Black people are facing, but don't want to do anything meaningful to correct it. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. All right. So the first paragraph says, I was recently given documents showing that both Amy, which is his wife, and I, who is Beta, are descendants from people who owned slaves, along with other possessions listed in their property log were two human beings, Rose and Eliza. All right, so one of Beta's grandfathers had two slaves, women, one named Rose, one named Eliza. All right, so a paternal great-great-great-grandfather of mine, Andrew Cohen Jasper, owned two women in 1850. There are also records showing that his maternal great-great-great-grandfather, Frederick Williams, most likely owned slaves in the 1860s. Most likely, he says, because we are not certain that the Frederick Williamson, who is my ancestor, and the Frederick Williamson who owned slaves are the same person, but there is enough circumstantial data to lead me to conclude that it's likely. So you have this presidential candidate who sits up here, is a descendant of slaves, and in this letter, he's going to recognize that the benefits that generations who are the generations of former slave masters, the benefit that came with their great grandfathers owning slaves to this day. So um, I'm gonna go down. Okay, so uh, ownership of other human beings conferred advantages not just to Andrew Jasper and Frederick Williams, his two grandfathers, but to Jasper's and Williams' descendants as well. They were able to build wealth on the backs and off the sweat of others, wealth that wealth that they would then be able to pass down to their children and their children's children. In some way and in some form, that advantage will pass through to me and my children. So basically, he's acknowledging the fact that people who own slaves still have generational wealth that's passed down to people who benefit and still have enough to pass down to their children. And so this is why reparations and not only for slavery but for all the other terrorism black people have been facing are still relevant, because the benefits of slavery are still evident wherever you look in this nation. Everything is relevant. Everything. Slavery is still relevant. Terrorism against black people to this day is still relevant. Reparations is relevant because the benefits and the resources that are enjoyed by white people are still in existence. It hasn't gone away. Sure, the people who were slaves are dead. Sure, the people who owned them are dead. But the benefits that they had are still here. And they still are tangible and they still should be given back. It's like if I steal your car and then I keep that car for 30 years and now it's my grandson's car, it's still your car and you still have a right to come get the goddamn car whenever you want to, because it still belongs to you. And that's the same thing. That land that they took from us after we were released, they gave us a little land, and they took it from us and gave it to white people, taught white people how to farm because they didn't know how to farm it, gave white people money to cultivate it and to grow upon it, and they took it from us and gave it to them and left us with nothing, and then want to put us in jail for loitering laws when we were standing out looking for jobs, asking for help, begging for money, put us back into a form of slavery. We still deserve reparations and we're going to get it, I promise. And okay, so, and continuing, that those enslaved Americans owned by my ancestors were denied their freedom, denied their ability to amass wealth, denied full civil rights in America after slavery, also had long-term repercussions for them and their descendants. Of course, Beta. We know that. You know that. Now, this is when he gets into the part, like I told you, they like to repeatedly spew out of their mouth what they know the issue with Black America is, but yet offer very little of any useful solutions. The way that fortune has passed through the generations from Andrew to me, misfortune was passed through the generations of Rose and Elia to their descendants who are alive today. Rose and Elia were denied their freedom and the benefit that their labor produced. They and their children were then denied their civil rights after the end of Reconstruction, and their descendants endure open terrorism, economic exclusion, and racism in the form of Jim Crow, lynching, convict leasing, voter suppression, redlining, predatory lending, and mass incarceration. Everything their descendants have accomplished in their lives is despite having all these odds stacked against them. Need I say more? Now, the point of reading this is to get you to the plan that he just proposed after finding this out. He came up with a plan. Let me see what it's called. Let me see. I forget. When I get to the article, I want to put it there because I'm still sharing my screen with you. I don't want to spoil it. But when he gets to after stating all the facts that he did about the travesties and the trials that Black people to this day are still facing as a result of what happened during slavery, I want you to listen and read the plan that he has to solve this issue. All right. Okay, let's go on to the top. I benefit from a system that my ancestors built, better worked as his ancestors owned slaves. All right, so I'm going to read the paragraph before it's playing. Okay, quote, he says, I benefit from a system that my ancestors built to favor themselves at the expense of others. That only increased the urgency I feel to help change the country so that it works for those who have been locked out of and locked up in this system of white supremacy, basically. And so they have an outline, a very short outline of the plan that he's proposing that he'll implement if elected president of the United States, or he could possibly try. And he's still in the Senate or in the House of Representatives. He still could try to push this bill through as that to give him a leg up to say, hey, I got this law passed. I deserve your vote. But I want you to listen to the language that he's using, the verbiage that he's using, and who he's talking about will receive these benefits. Okay, in his post, O'Rourke introduced measures he would take as president to address the system that has historically been unfair to the black community. $23 billion in funding minority, majority public schools, equal pay, $25 billion in government spending on minority and women-owned businesses, universal health care, home health visits to women of color to address higher mortality and infant mortality rates, police accountability, ending the war on drugs, removing arrest records for non-violent drug crimes. Okay, so that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points that he wants to pass in that bill, and then one of the points that he mentioned, black people. He didn't say descendants of slaves, foundational black people. He said people of color. Black people, we are not people of color. They use that as a mixing pot of everybody who has color in their skin benefits. But when he discussed and when he explained the trials and the travesties that slaves and their descendants went through, he was specifically talking about black people. But when it comes down to getting benefits and correcting the issue, they want to include everybody. That's the problem. And even some of these points, whether it says people of color or not, are still stupid and does nothing to what we need to have done to get us out of poverty. $23 billion in funding minority majority public schools. That can help. Maybe funding public schools will help, but it does no good to have a great public school in a community surrounded by violence and crime and trash and filth. It does no good. It does no good at all. And the fact that you say people of color as well tells me that you're not seriously considering correcting the wrongs of your ancestors. You're just looking for a vote, and you don't want to set out the Hispanic vote, which is a large millions of votes. You don't want to set that aside and make them upset that you're doing something specifically for black people, even though it's justified. These politicians can't even do things that are justified for black people without making other racial groups upset. They can't even put police in jail for our murders on camera without making people upset. Okay, so the next one, equal pay. That's all it says, equal pay. What does that mean? Equal pay for who? Equal pay for women to men? Equal pay for black men to white men? What is equal pay? That's a lie. That's just talk. $25 billion in government spending on minority and women-owned business. I don't see the point of him having to say minority and women-owned businesses. There are women in the minority group already. Why do you have to specifically say women? What about men? If you're going to go that far, you should say minority men and women, because there's black men out here. I'm not speaking for other minority people, as they want to say. I'm not speaking for the Hispanics or the Asians or the Arabs. I'm speaking for black people. There are millions of black men in this country with great ideas who want to be entrepreneurs and open up their store, but they can't get the loans. And so when he only mentions women of color, which includes black women, unfortunately, with that label of color, he's trying to divide and conquer black men and black women, as if we're going to give the leg up to the black woman, but we're going to ignore the black man who has been the face and the biggest target of this white supremacist society. And so he just, black men, it doesn't matter. We'll look out for the women because women tend to vote more than men. All right, so universal health care, that has nothing to do with us. If it's universal, it's nothing specifically for us. It gets to everybody's going to get it. Home health visits to women of color to address high mortality and infant mortality rates. Home health visits. A doctor or a nurse coming to my home will have their proper equipment to let me know if my baby is upside down with a cord wrapped around his neck. A home health visit is not going to tell me and guarantee me that my baby will be able to survive the next 2 trimesters. Home health visits mean nothing, just talk. And you know how many you know how many people of color, black people and other races of people of color have pregnancies a year? Do you know how many people you have to hire to go to their home? That's stupid and it's asinine and it's just talking. It's just talking. Police accountability. What the hell does that mean? Because when these police get off and killing black people on camera and they get off, they say the police were held accountable and they were found not guilty. Police accountability doesn't mean anything. It just means that we'll just make sure and we'll pretend to do an even thorough investigation, but they won't do anything to make sure that they go to jail. But when that Muhammad Noir killed that white woman in Minnesota, they didn't wait 5 years like we've been waiting for Eric Garner's police officer who choked him out to get justice or to find out if he'll be prosecuted or not. What she wasn't, which came out earlier this morning, they won't charge him. But when that black cop, that black Somalian cop, immigrant cop, shot that white woman and killed her, and because he was scared, it was dark outside, and she was banging on his car, and he didn't know what it was, and he shot her. They didn't wait 5 years for him to put his ass in jail. They didn't give him a slap on the wrist. They didn't just say, hey, he's on desk duty. No, they put him in jail for 15 years minimum. So now you tell me that's accountability. White people are the only ones who get accountability when they unarmed and murder. Black people, you're just seen as throwaways anyway. Ending the drug war. They already started that with marijuana. What are you talking about? And then he says removing arrest records for nonviolent drug crimes. They're already doing that too. They just started with marijuana. Are you telling me you're gonna end the drug war with cocaine and heroin and crack and meth and all this other shit people be selling to make money? I doubt it. So what are you talking about? You can't be talking about marijuana because it's pretty much being legalized all over the country and the arrest records for retroactively are being erased. Most of these things he's saying are already things that's been on the books by other people and by local states. By states themselves been taking care of this. This guy is full of it, just like the majority of all them candidates. That's why none of them deserve our vote. Until you have the courage and the psychological capacity and the heart to sit up here and tell the American people that black people are very special people in this nation. They deserve special attention. I won't forget about you, but we also as a nation have to lift up the weakest of our society because that's what we're judged on. Until a presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders, punk ass, can't even sit up there and say that, and you got Killer Mike out here supporting him. I don't support any candidate that can't sit up here and say, black people specifically, this is what I'm going to do for you. Kamala Harris, she looks black, but she don't claim to be black. She claims to be, Indian or Jamaican or whatever, mixed. And she doesn't even sit up here and say what she's specifically going to do for black people. So she's not getting a vote either. She's just another Barack Obama. Barack Obama never came out and specifically for 2 terms, never came out and said, I'm specifically going to do this for black people. Because the majority of people that was killed in this country in the last 15 years were killed under the 8 years he was president. Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Freddie Gray, Walter Scott, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin. All of these and more black people were killed under the presidency of Barack Obama. And none of them went to jail. None of the people responsible for that murders went to jail. So it doesn't matter if you have a black president or a white president in their office anymore. My brothers and sisters, Foundation of Black Americans, it doesn't matter anymore. What we need is somebody who is willing to specifically talk about the needs and how they're going to solve the needs and the issues that black people in this country face, because we are steady and slowly going back under to be the lowest class of society in America, and the Hispanics and the Mexicans are topping us because even their home ownership is peaking above ours. And home ownership is very important because home ownership means that you have the ability to create wealth by the structure of the house itself, and the land itself can be generational wealth that perpetuates and can keep your family and your generations out of poverty. When black people are failing to get the loans and for many other reasons to get loans and to be able to buy a house, we're losing that ability to create generational wealth. And so the fact that the Hispanics are coming in this country or have been in this country and are topping us in that list of home ownership, that's a very serious issue that needs to be addressed with these presidential candidates, but they all seem to fail to do anything meaningful for black people. They all failed to seem to do anything meaningful, specifically targeting the issues and the plight of Black people in this nation. And they always have. And until we get down and we put our foot down and we tell them that we're not going to vote, we're going to stay in the house, we're just going to watch the elections on TV and watch the Democrats lose and lose and lose and lose and lose and lose and lose until they get the courage to support us like we have for over 50 years, to make sure that they can get in office and maintain their jobs, maintain their power, until they can make sure we can maintain our job and get some power, then we have nothing to talk about. It's not going to be a one-way street any longer. And you telling us we should just do it out of tradition. We should not just vote out of tradition. We should not just vote because we like the personality of a candidate. We should be vote based on the interest specifically for Black people in this nation. And if any candidate does not have an agenda specifically targeting Black people, not people of color, Black people, Foundation of Black Americans, ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, until they come out and they can publicly show the courage and the balls to do that, and the truth and the honesty within themselves to express that to the rest of the nation, that, hey, we have to do this, whether you like it or not. This is justice. We have to seek justice. Until they really want to seek justice, they don't deserve our vote. We don't deserve to be sitting out there waiting in line. They already trying to, we don't deserve to be sitting up there arguing and fighting because they don't want us to vote, and they trying to close down the machine, close down voting polling places. They trying to do all this stuff. You know what? Ain't none of them working for us anyway, so why waste our time? We pull out of that system, and then we'll let it crumble, and then we'll see if those 50% who voted for Trump, Hispanics, or those 50% Democrats don't get the Democrats in office. Because Black people are the only people who vote in the block, and that's for the Democratic Party. Hispanics, like I told you, 50 for Trump, 50 was for Democrats. White people, same. Asians hardly ever vote. Arab, they hardly ever vote because they know everything is about economics. I don't care who your president is, as long as they're not doing anything that negatively affects their economy and their little, corner in American society, they don't care to vote. But Black people, we care too much to vote. And so until we get the tangible, until we get what they owe us, we won't vote. That's where our power relies, is by withholding that vote. And one more thing I wanted to show you before I wrapped up was the second, well, not the second, he's one of many people in Congress whose ancestors were slave owners and who's against reparation. We like to call him, his name is Mitch McConnell, but we like to call him Mitch the Bitch McConnell. And he was at a press conference and addressing the fact that it had been recently found out that he was an ancestor of former slaveholders. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to listen to what he said, and listen, pay attention closely, so you can see his excuse for not supporting reparations, even though he found out that he's a descendant of slaveholders. All right, here we go.
Reparations for something that happened 150 years ago for whom none of us currently living are responsible. Reparations for something that happened 150 years ago for whom none of us currently living are responsible is a good idea. We've tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting a civil war, by passing a landmark civil rights legislation. We've elected an African-American president. I don't think we should be trying to figure out how to compensate for it. First of all, it'd be pretty hard to figure out who to compensate. Is a good idea.
All right, so we're gonna break down what he said, and we're gonna even break down some of the points of the word point that they made at the bottom. All right, so I don't think reparation is something. I don't think he said. I don't think we should pay for reparation for something that happened 150 years ago. Remember, I told you at the beginning of our conversation is that when they have to come to and say, have a discussion about reparation, they always want to tie it specifically into slavery and not the 100+ years of terrorism Black people have been going through in this nation to this day. Because if you tie that only to slavery, you have a better argument of saying, hey, yeah, a lot of Americans, a lot of people, even some Black people say, yeah, slavery was a long time ago. But when you include all the terrorism and the things that have happened since slavery that still happen to today, like the infusion of drugs in the Black community, like the mass incarceration into the Black community, like the redlining, the inability to get loans and higher interest rates, then you'll see that the things that perpetually affect Black people educationally and socially in this country are still in existence, and that we need to be compensated for, and it needs to be corrected. So that's why they always have reparations to the conversation about slavery, as if that's the only thing.
Reparations for something that happened 150 years ago, for whom none of us currently living are responsible, is a good idea.
Okay, he also said we also dealt with the original sin of slavery because they fought a civil war. No, you didn't fight a civil war to free Black people from slavery. The North did not fight a civil war to free Black people from slavery. Black people also fought with the North to free ourselves from slavery. You fought a war against the South in order to not split up the Union. That's what you fought the war for. Slavery, the release of slavery was just an explanation, was a justification, and one of the causes, a symptom, not the cause of that civil war. These white people did not come from the North to the South to say, hey, you enslaving Black people was wrong, because they had slaves in the North also, And he fought a civil war. No, we fought a civil war. We died alongside you. We are the ones who won that war for our own liberty.
Tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting a civil war, by passing a landmark.
And he also said they passed landmark civil rights legislation that don't even benefit us to this day. And the civil rights was not necessarily their fault, because the civil rights legislation was pretty much things that we ignorantly at that time thought was important to us, like education. Hey, we want to be able to sit at the lunch counter with white people. We want to be able to drink out of the same water fountain, use the same toilets, go to the same school, use the same swimming pool. Those things were like wallpaper on the big issue of the inside of the house. The inside of the house means we needed financial compensation for the wrongs that has been done to us and the murder and the terrorism that we've been afflicted with. At that time, that's what we should have been fighting about, was reparations. But I promise you, if we were fighting for reparations, back then, they'll still be saying the same thing to us, what they say about reparations now. It was too long ago. That'll be the whole argument. It was too long ago. The old former slave masters are dead now. But then they failed, like I say, they always fail to bring into the conversation 100+ years of terrorism inflicted on Black people since slavery. So, okay, you passed landmark legislation for civil rights laws, but now civil rights laws don't benefit Black people specifically anymore, which it should. It was specifically meant for the protection of Black people, but now it benefits every minority group that comes into this country more than it benefits Black people, and that's why you have Hispanics having higher home ownership than Black people.
Our civil rights legislation, we elected an African American president.
And he said part of the reparation package was electing Barack Obama. I won't even go too deep. I mean, because right on the surface, that's stupid. And he also, I didn't see it in his video, but he mentioned that he shouldn't be asked or forced to support reparations because he may be a descendant of a slave owner, but so was Barack Obama, and Barack Obama was also against reparations. In my opinion, if Black people had our heads screwed on 9 years ago when Barack Obama was running for president, we shouldn't have voted for him. but the fascination and the hope of having a black man who we felt had some sort of a connection to us, who understood what we were going through, and that by virtue of his association and close ties to black people of this nation, we felt like he would automatically look out for us and do something for us. And for 8 years and 2 terms, we held our hope, expecting him to do something. Even after he said he didn't support reparations, there were black people who were saying that we must wait till he get out of office because he's the president and they're making things so difficult for him. They may try to impeach him. When he gets out of office, he's going to be an advocate for us. He's going to support and push this issue of reparations for black people. And to this day, he has not done that. He's actually spoken out about his continued support for lack of reparations for black people. So the whole point of this video was for me to share quite a few things. Instead of making separate videos about these topics, I wanted us to have a conversation, a longer conversation about multiple topics, and tie it all in and see how one story about the AOC, the Hispanic political group, are kicking out the black, trying to oust the black political members of the Congress, and how that ties into the whole fact of reparations, on how those people, the Hispanics, don't support reparations for black people either. So we have a power game, power on top of the black people, keep them down, while the Hispanics get all this landmark legislation passed for them to be able to come in this country, be able to drive without driver's license and not go to jail, be able to get free education, free health care, even housing and public aid and other forms of public support, while black people are still stuck in poverty. And get actually going deeper and deeper into poverty, according to the trajectory of the statistics. So it was great talking to you guys. I really appreciate those of you who stuck around and talked to me and shared in the comments, and this very important conversation. This probably won't be my last video of the day, but this would be the beginning of long conversations that we have eventually soon. I'll start doing live videos also. I haven't really mastered the art of sharing my screen when I go live, but the fact that it's live should be good enough for us to bounce ideas off each other, come up with great ideas, solutions, and find out some more issues that we face in this country that I haven't addressed yet, or no one else has addressed that I have heard so far. So thank you for sticking around. If you don't mind, like the video, share the video, comment on the video, and please subscribe. Until next time, y'all be safe out there. If you have any ideas or any questions or concerns, just contact me, inbox me, and we'll talk about it. Peace.